Well, I don't know what opening statement to give today. Obviously, I'm very, very proud of the season that our team had. Disappointing end, losing to Marquette, but if you happen to catch the next day when Marquette played Louisville, I mean, you saw what kind of team Marquette was. They took Louisville to 5 and almost made it back to the Sweet 16. And in a similar match to ours, it was both teams offensively were elite. We hit 320. If you would have told me we were going to hit 320 against Marquette, I would have said we would have won in 3. But we just couldn't get them stopped. And so it was just an offensive showcase on Friday. And then again, with the Marquette-Louisville match on Saturday, played out in a similar way. And so, the end of the season is always a little disappointing and sad, but looking back, what an incredible year for our kids. And I said going into this year, if you were going to get Western Kentucky, this needed to be the year because of how young we were, and for these kids to accomplish what they have is something that I think we're all really proud of.
Not just the youth having to gain this experience, but then having to kind of gain experience with all the injuries. Kind of speaks well for the depth and just the way this team responded resilience-wise. I'm sure as a coach you've got to be pleased. Yeah,
every passing moment since the season ended, a little bit of disappointment gets replaced with a little bit of pride, and you can't not be proud of what this team accomplished. It was, I looked out on the court at one point during that NCAA tournament, and I think we had, 1, 2, 3. We had 4 freshmen on the court at one time when I stuck Kate Rush in. We had Kate Rush and Kyra Knox and Sonia Loxonen and Kennedy Cherry all on the court, 4 freshmen in the NCAA tournament with a sophomore and a junior. And the future is certainly really, really bright. But we all need as I have said many times, we all need a long winter's nap now after a long season to just kind of recover. But certainly there's work to be done, but there's incredible excitement for the future as well.
Of course, it's emotional when Callie and Abby just were reflecting on their careers. But one thing I thought that was really nice that Abby said, talking about you, but the life lessons that she learns along the way as well, that all these players do, just off the court. How, as a coach, how does that feel to hear, and how much do you try to focus on giving them those life lessons in addition to the game?
It's the good stuff. It's the best part. For me, again, this was our 18th NCAA tournament. I no longer coach to get to 19. It's just about watching these kids grow, and in a world of college athletics, which is getting further and further away from the ups and downs and the growth and the hardship and the deal with it and the fight through it and to persevere and to, use your sport to turn you into something bigger. We're still doing that, and it's really rewarding. It's hard. It's hard for me at the end, but it is really rewarding to hear people like Abby and Callie talk about their experience here. And at the end of the day, again, I think there's way too many people that think that those things exist separately. Success on the court and what we're trying to do with them away from the court, and to me it's the secret sauce. It's we have all of the success on the court that we have because of the way we do things off the court. And so, the 3 really fine young women walking out of our program this year that had great careers, but and they hurt during this time too, but they also all understand that there's more, in their life. One of the most rewarding things that I had happen, after the press conference came out and everything, is I've probably had a half dozen former players reach out to me that are in their 30s or in their 40s that have said, you told me this, and you couldn't have been more right. Like, the best days of my life were ahead of me, even though it felt like volleyball was everything. And so, it's really comforting to know that we have 3 more that are ready to go out and do great things.
You mentioned the changing landscape of college athletics, and so far you're kind of one of those rare programs when it comes to the portal. I looked yesterday, there was a stat online yesterday, there were 400 kids in the portal in the first day alone. How do you kind of manage that, and do you kind of take pride in right now that's something that hasn't seemed to seep into this program?
Yeah, I do, because I don't think you can ask kids. Look, the portal is here to stay, and it has value. Like, there are going to be kids in our program that end up in the portal in years to come. There are going to be kids that we bring in from the portal, which we've done with Kaylee Cox and Kendall Meller, and there's some really good things about it that give kids second chances, that get kids in better situations, that, so it's not just a blanket statement that every kid that goes in the portal, they have a wart, there's something wrong with them, or every program that has a couple kids go in the portal, there's something wrong and dysfunctional about that program. That's not it at all. There are really valid reasons why, that would be the case, but as weird as it sounds, I think that, you start thinking, well, that, there are teams that have the advantage of, they use the portal and they have money, all this money that they're giving kids and all that, and, that can be their advantage, but I always believe that a program like ours is going to be more and more unique. And I believe that the kids in our program, in a lot of ways, feel like they're getting some things that money can't buy, and they're learning some lessons that are going to make them wildly successful in their future that you can't take shortcuts on. And, those are the things. So there's some of both, just like I guess there is in anything else. There are some kids that are looking for shortcuts, or looking for somebody to blame, or looking for all of those kinds of things. And, and this is not an environment that's going to kind of point them in a different direction, because we've had a lot of kids in our program as freshmen that were looking for shortcuts and an easier way and all that, and instead of pointing them away from it and looking for another one, we kind of have a habit of pointing it right toward that mirror and kind of growing through it and learning from it, and so I think. Look, I think there's always going to be a place for a program like ours. I think there's always going to be moms and dads that at the end of the day understand that their daughter can go out and earn a living like every other person has their whole lifetime, and they're looking for someone to kind of give them the tools necessary. And and it won't be our program won't be for everybody, just like other programs, I guess, aren't for everybody, but our program won't be for everybody. But I think that there'll always be a group of people who will value the things that kids in our program are growing to learn and understand, and we just so happen to win quite a few volleyball games in the meantime.
Coach, from a recruiting standpoint, kind of staying on that same tone, you have a lot of freshmen who play a lot of valuable minutes. How just important, easy does it make the pitch for like incoming girls, getting the right girls into the program? Like, hey, when you come here, you're going to play some valuable minutes. It's a big time game. Yeah, the development piece too is really important here. I think that's one thing that I think is very tangible in our program is the developmental piece, whether it be an incoming freshman who we were able to develop into playing meaningful minutes as a true freshman in the NCAA tournament, or the occasional kid like a Kaylee Cox who transferred here after 2 years to average years at Missouri and became an All-American here. And that's one of the pieces to this, that I think there's a lot of proof, when you look at is kids get better here. Kids get better in our program, whether it's an incoming freshman or whether it's a transfer kid coming in, they're getting better
when they're here. And so it's not so much about coming here and getting X amount of NIL dollars. It's coming here and developing myself to where I can go out and become a pro like a Paige Briggs or a Kaylee Cox or a Lauren Matthews and I think we are blessed to have a really, really quality staff, all the way from top to bottom. And so, and I think that the freshmen, the young kids in our program saw the improvements they made this year. And I think that they look forward to making that jump that they saw Olivia Skidmore and Faith Young, who were our 2 sophomores this year, have. And so hopefully that's something that we can continue to produce.
From a conference standpoint, looking out too, it feels like that the floor has risen a little bit. You and UTEP both get in. I mean, you see the 8 seed knocking off the 1 in the tournament. The balance there, I mean, that's got to be, a nice challenge going forward as a coach. I was going to say good, but probably not good because you.
Well, I've been saying it for 2 years. Like, Conference USA volleyball is on the rise. It's a meteoric rise. I was sitting at the conference tournament at our coaches meeting prior to the tournament, and there are 8 coaches sitting there, and it dawned on me. I started looking around that room, and all 8 coaches that were sitting there have led their team to an NCAA tournament in their career. Think about that now in Conference USA. And there are more coaches in Conference USA who didn't even qualify this year that had led their team to NCAA tournaments. That's pretty remarkable now in our league, and I think it speaks to the talent of the coaching staffs in our league. And again, you have great coaches, you're going to start improving, and that's what you're starting to see, and that's only going to get better because these aren't coaches that are young up-and-comers. These are coaches that have proven that they know how to get teams to postseason play, and so that's great news for our league. Obviously, it makes it more of a challenge for us year to year, but improving the overall profile of our league. We were a multiple bid league this year, and there's no reason to believe that we can't become that and continue to be that moving forward.